Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. Tonight we'll be covering the Analects, book 12. We'll start with chapter 11. So we'll have one reading, or at least or two, and then we'll go to Jason's translation. He'll walk us through the translation, and then we'll have a series of comments. And after those comments, we ask keep them brief for now, so that we can get through as much as possible, and then we can open it up for a little bit more of a detailed discussion afterwards, if anyone's interested. So with that, does anybody have their version of the Analects that they would like to read? I didn't think so.
Well, I'm willing to read the Eno.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
great.
well, that'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful, because I don't even have it up right now.
That's the stuff 11, 12, and 13. Book 12. Okay. Book 12,
Okay.
chapter 11, 12, and 13.
Is it my turn or?
Yeah, go right ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that it was someone else. So 12.11, is it right?
That's correct.
Okay, so Duke Jing of Qi asked Confucius about governance. Confucius replied, "Let the ruler be ruler, minister, ministers, fathers, fathers, sons, sons." The Duke said, "Excellent. Truly, if the ruler is not ruler, ministers not ministers, fathers not fathers, sons not sons, though I possess grain, wouldn't I be able to eat it?" And that is the end of 12.11.
You can go ahead and read 12 and 13 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, 12, 12, 12, 12, and 12, 13.
12.12. The master said, "Able to adjudicate a lawsuit by hearing a single statement, would this not characterize Yo? Zulu never postpone fulfillment of a promise overnight." 12.13. The master said, "In hearing lawsuits, I'm no better than others. What is imperative is to make it so that there are no lawsuits." End of it.
Thank you, Kwang. Okay, so 12, 11 basics, I think that's very similar, and then it kind of like become a standard translation. And just put a note, the 12:11 is probably one of, I would not say the most famous, but very, very famous Confucius philosophy, right? So if moral political philosophy, okay, put this way. So if you only want to remember one verses, this one probably the one, So Duke Jing of Qi asked Confucius about governance. Confucius replied, "Let the ruler be a ruler, ministers minister, fathers father, and the sons sons." Okay. The Duke said, "Good. If the ruler is not a ruler, minister not minister, father not fathers, and the son not sons, even if I had food, how can I eat it?" So the word he used, the Duke Jing used, is "li," which means, I think, translate as a grain. That's just the meaning of grain. So it could mean food, it also means the revenue. You have money because during that time you have more grain, also means you have enough revenue. So we don't know, what he meant exactly, but basically is this one. And this one is reflect Confucius' the key philosophy, which so-called the rectification of names. So father should be act like father. A ruler should act like a ruler, and the father should act like father. Son should act like son. If so, the problem happened during that time is the ruler doesn't act like a ruler, and the minister didn't act like a minister. I think I'm not very sure. When Confucius talk about this, it's during Confucius' young age when he was in the royal court of the state of Qi, and during that time, the Duke Jing of Qi, I think he has some problems. It's one of his powerful minister is, I'm not quite sure, but that's have some historical background. Yeah. So, okay. Number 12, the master said, one who can settle dispute, or we want to call it lawsuit, with a few words. He must be you, which means 指路. So Confucius, this one is a Confucius comment about 指路. So he said that the one can settle dispute or lawsuit with a few words, must be 指路. And 指路 never postpone what he has promised overnight. We just heard Eno's translation is talking about one can settle dispute with single statement. I think that's Eno's translation. And then some translation will translate as a one-side argument. So we don't know what it really means. Chinese word called 片言. In a way, you can say one side. In another way, you can say a piece of word. So I think based on the Confucius comment about 指路 never postponed, so I will assume here means make a decision with a few words. Okay, so that means 指路 always make a quick decision. So that's my understanding on this. Chapter 13. You can read 12 and 13 together. Okay, the master said, in hearing lawsuit or dispute, I'm like others. However, my purpose is to have no lawsuit or no dispute. So during that time, as a minister, as a doing the officer, the main job would be settle the lawsuit. So dealing with lawsuit is important, or dispute we can call. And the Confucius, you can tell here, the purpose is, I think during that time, the concept of justice is not that important. I think harmony is more important. So important thing is not justice. The important thing is the no lawsuit. That means harmony. People live in peace. That's Confucius' idea. So I'll stop here, and then if you have any comment, Amang is not here today, so you can have your own comment, and then.
So go ahead, either type exclamation point in the chat or raise your hand in Zoom if you have any comments about number 11, 12, or 13. Juan, and then DLJ.
As Jason said, the 12.11 is a super famous Confucian statement, and most of the time it is used to bash Confucianism because Once again, Confucianism has to be distinguished between the bureaucratic Confucianism, which was promoting hierarchy, order, and etc. And it can be interpreted in that sense, of course, and also Confucianism as action in harmony with reality. So here you can uh, say that it is either a fair statement about the natural hierarchy and the natural order, with each one fulfilling its duty according to his capacity and design, or you can use it as a kind of authoritarian principle used to oppress people. So that statement is absolutely famous in political science in China since at least the last 2 millennia. I stop here.
Thank you very much, Juan. I do want to maybe revisit that at some point, because there seems to be an element of role ethics. DLJ.
Yeah, thanks. Can somebody take me through 11 again? I really don't get it. Even if there's sufficient grain, will I ever get to eat it? Because there's no administration to distribute it? Is that what it's supposed to mean? I don't know.
Yeah, because there is no order, and there would be chaos if everyone is not fulfilling his duties at his place.
It really highlights the
Okay,
balance
so I did understand
between,
it.
because there is this social order and ethics balance.
Yeah, my explanation could be a little bit different. Okay, I read this one as a rectification of name. Okay, so I think in book 13 will mention this one. I think Confucius' key political philosophy is the name. So when he label you as a name, as a father, you have to play the role, the function of father. When you got the name as a son, you have to play the function or the duty as a son. When you being labor has a name of ruler or prince or lord, you should have the duty, okay, as a lord, or same as minister, same as older brother, younger brother. That's my understanding on this one. So I will put this one as the key Confucius teaching, which is the name is very important. And later on, you will say, Confucius will say, the name is not, I think it's in book 13, the name is not proper, then you cannot speak properly. If you don't speak properly, then you cannot have command people. If you cannot command people, nothing can be done. So to Confucius, that's very important. So that's the way I read this one. I will put this one as a name.
So next up we have Allison, Mike C, and then we'll go to Quan.
I really like this one because I think today we have a saying, stay in your lane, which seems kind of similar in a way, but I mean, I think, we had a reality star who became president, and not to go to politics, but it seems like it's pretty important that people do the job that they're supposed to do. And that I feel like, I don't know if it's because anybody can Google anything, so sometimes we feel like we're experts on everything, but it seems like so often today people are trying to tell other people how to do their job, like they try and tell the doctor, I think I have this or that, or they try and tell teachers that how to do our job. People want to tell everybody else how to do their job, and rather than sticking to the job that they're actually trained and prepared to do. And I think that's it's just an interesting thing, because I kind of feel like we're in sort of an era where everybody wants to give unsolicited advice about things that they don't necessarily know. much about. So I really like the idea of like, you know, the father needs to be the father, the son needs to be the son, the minister needs to be the minister. And, you know, it's yet again another time when, you know, Confucius's wisdom is so relevant to today.
So as a teacher, you probably want to tell student, teacher as a teacher, student as a student, right? So
Well, yeah, and I think like I always feel like I learn from that. I learn a lot from them. But you know, sometimes there are many people who try and tell teachers how to do our jobs, and they are not qualified for the, you know, their opinions aren't actually based on anything other than emotions rather than fact. So yeah.
So, go ahead, Mixie.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Yeah, I kind of read this like the first part is like the Lord is the Lord, the Father is the Father, and so on. And that kind of just it's like we all kind of work as a whole. So like when you know when my neighbor's being the neighbor, kind of everyone is in their place in a true way to themselves. And I think the key word is true, as in like sincere to ourselves. If we are like who we are, society kind of works as it should as a whole. But like when the Lord is not true and like the Father is not the Father, kind of like where they play a role, but they're not actually true to their word, the system falls apart. So you can't really be a true whole if there's like synthetic, I guess, you know, ministers, lords, fathers. I also see it kind of like a waterfall effect where like if the Lord is not, you know, playing by the rules, then whoever else is below says, hey, like, you know, that's not fair. Like I'm also going to follow suit, and it kind of just will almost like a ripple effect that will kind of affect society in that certain way. So yeah, I like these. Thanks.
Excellent comments. Thank you, Mike. Well, Quan.
Okay. Even if Jason said quoted the chapter 13.3 to a certain extent, I still want to read the 9 lines from chapter 13.3, which is exactly the perfect philosophical expansion of what has been read at 12.11. Okay, so bear with me. If names are not right, then speech does not accord with things. If speech is not in accord with things, then affairs cannot be successful. When affairs are not successful, Li and music do not flourish. When Li and music do not flourish, then sanctions and punishment miss their mark. When sanctions and punishment miss their mark, the people have no place to set their hands and feet. Therefore, when a Junzi gives things to names, they may be properly spoken of, and what is said may be properly enacted. With regard to speech, the Junzi permits no carelessness. Thanks.
thank you, Kwang. That will be next week. You spoil the story, so.
Yeah. Give everybody a heads.
It's too perfect because you know that I am the promoter of Confucianism as a epistemological school. So 12.11 sounds so authoritarian that I feel the need to add the epistemological explanation at once.
That's true though. If you only read this one by itself, right, you feel like Confucius only built the bureaucracy hierarchy system.
Yes.
But if you connect with his philosophy of the rectification of name, well, I'm not saying he doesn't build the hierarchy. He does believe the hierarchy system, but behind that, he has idea of the proper name come with proper function. And actually, this concept is very westernized. So for 1,000 years in the Western philosophy, people keep arguing the name and substance. I think the way we argue is the Western world argue is the name, the universal, and the individual, right? So exactly. I think the particular and the universal, that's very Western kind of concept. But Confucius mentioned this one, and then a lot of people take it in a different ways. Anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's nominalism and universals.
Yeah, There is, I do want to come back to this later. I mean, I'm not going to hold us up with this. But there's an idea, not only role ethics, but excellence along with that, the Greek concept of arte. So, where, you're fulfilling your responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions, and performing your role well. And actually, the other element is focusing on what is up to you. But it's much deeper than that, because even number 12, I want to come back to, because the idea gets into concepts of justice. So we can talk about that a little bit later. So with that, what next batch would you want to go through?
Let's do 14, 15, and the 16. Kwang, can please.
I'm sorry. Okay. Zhu Chang asked about governance. The master said, fulfill your office untiringly, perform your duties with loyalty. 12.15, the master said, once a Junzi has studied broadly in patterns and constrained them with Li, indeed he will never turn his back on them. 12.16, the master said, the Junzi perfects what is beautiful in people, he does not perfect what is ugly. The small man does just the opposite.
Thank you, Kwang. Okay, so this three chapter is short, and the 14. Okay, number 14, Zhang asked about governance. The master said, be tireless while in office, be devotional in execution. All right, so here I like to mention Zhang is, if you remember on the book 11, chapter 18, the comment about Zhang is he is spacious. Okay, another way is he's probably not sincere enough, or he put too much on the outside, okay, the appearance. Okay, so that's his comment. The Confucius, we assume that's Confucius' comment about Zhang. So here, Zhang asked about governance. So Confucius asked him to really put effort on the real work, not on the appearance. That's why Confucius said, be tireless while in office, be devotion in execution. So the word here used 忠 in general translate as loyalty. But I think during that time, that's my understanding, during that time, the loyal to country or state probably not a concept during that time. So I believe when Confucius talk about 忠, which is and always there's many times connect with the trustworthiness. Okay, so I think these two words always put together means Confucius asking about devotion, put your full heart in job, which is devotional, or put your full heart to people, which is trustworthiness on your word and on your job. So that's why I translate as devotional instead of loyalty. Chapter 15, again, that would be the difference between Dr. Eno, or the word Wen, I translate as literature or ancient knowledge. Dr. Eno always translate as pattern. So the master said, once a Junzi learns broadly in literature, okay, and constrains himself with rituals, he will never err. Okay, so the words he will never away from something. So that means he never make mistake. Let's put it this way. So, so you can see two sides. Confucius will see you need to study the ancient texts, and in a way, you should practice, put your learning in practice, and then being constrained with the ritual, then you will make no mistake. That's Confucius want to do. Number 16, the master said, a Junzi will help others achieve what is beautiful, but not help others achieve what is evil. The small man does just the opposite. So this one is become a common saying about the in today 成人之美 basically is in the common Chinese language means bring a romance to an happy end. All right. So, but definitely that's not Confucius meant. But what Confucius meant is hard to explain. Okay, I just have to translate by the words because he used the word 君子 will help others achieve what is beautiful. Okay, and not help others achieve what is evil. Translated as beautiful and ugly. I'm not sure this word means ugly. Okay, so my understanding would be the beautiful Confucius probably means moral. Okay, so, but the word Confucius used is beautiful. Thank you. Any comment?
Go ahead. Does anybody have a comment on 14, 15, or 16? Go ahead, Quan.
Okay, my comment is on 16. The Junzi perfects what is beautiful in people. He does not perfect what is ugly. The small man does just the opposite. I would say that like that, it looks obvious, okay, but it's one of the main principles of the classical education, okay, because in the classical education, and West or East is the same, there is a stark distinction between the superior emotions, okay, what is beautiful, and the inferior emotions, what is ugly or what is evil. So here, the Junzi, the gentleman, will always help people to be capable to have superior emotions, and the small man does just the opposite. Okay, so he will manipulate people through making them feel inferior emotions like anger or jealousy or etc.
Does anybody else wish to comment on 13 or 14, 15, or 16? I think that there's an interesting link because when he's talking about President 14, he's talking about governance and how to govern ethically, by not necessarily ethically, but at least efficiently. And he's focused on basically being aware of the types of let me see, is it the types of policies I would imagine being practiced or being put into place, and being consistent. So if you think about that, and he's talking about that in terms of leadership, also it's interesting to see that linked with number 16, in the sense that you're talking about what a superior person is, and how they actually are to cultivate the other people, people around them within government. So I think that that's actually an important point to link between those two, because it's not only you're talking about leaders that act consistent and efficient, and then you also are having leaders develop those around them if they're superior people. If they're not, then I guess that would be insufficient to fulfill their role.
Yeah, here, after listen to what Quang's comment, I think I'm going to change the translation to what is beautiful and what is ugly. I think that probably make more sense in this way, because the word means evil, but also means ugly. Ancient time, even it doesn't sound a moral teaching, but it could be. I think it makes more sense to read as what is beautiful and what is ugly, and let the reader to interpret what the meaning of beautiful and what's the meaning of ugly. I think that's a better way. Thank you.
I think number 15 is just to briefly cover it. I think it's significant as well. When essentially he's talking about not only learning, but learning what I'm going to say virtue. I'll go ahead and say virtue. He talks about propriety, and so in order to err on what is right, so that just the importance of continuous learning, and also some degree of temperance and self-restraint, at least in the translation that I'm looking at as well. You see the virtue of temperance. So, and it's something that's kind of spoken to throughout the Analects, is the importance of how learning, no matter what your position is in society, or whatever your abilities are, it's almost like you're morally obligated to learn. So that's one other interesting point about these three, within these three. Anybody else wish to comment? If not, what next three would you?
Yeah, let's read the next three, which all related to 季康. So,
Okay, 17, 18, 19. Okay.
Yeah.
12.17. Qi Kangzi questioned Confucius about governance. Confucius replied, governance is setting things upright. If you lead with uprightness, who will dare not to be upright? 12.18. Qi Kangzi was concerned about bandits and asked advice of Confucius. Confucius replied, if you yourself were truly not covetous, though you rewarded people for it, they would not steal. 12.19. Qi Kangzi asked Confucius about governance, saying, how would it be if I were to kill those who are without the Tao in order to hasten others towards the Tao? Confucius replied, of what use is killing in your governance? If you desire goodness, the people will be good. The virtue of the Junzi is like the wind, and the virtue of the common people is like the grasses. When the wind blows over the grasses, they will surely bend.
thank you, Kwang. So whenever we see the family Ji, especially Ji Kangzi, okay, that's we will need to remember. Ji is the powerful family, or we want to call warlord, okay, or the powerful minister during the court of state of Du, okay. So because they are in power, and the Confucius really dislike them, but has no choice but obey their order or be submit to them. Okay, so every time, and they also respect Confucius, so that's why Ji Kangzi would like to ask Confucius something. Okay, they see Confucius as a gentleman, as a smart, the person with wisdom, So they like to ask Confucius about governance. But Confucius ends always try to imply their moral problem, or they don't carry the right name. Remember, we talk about as a minister, you should be acting like a minister. Since Ji family should be only a minister, you should not act like a ruler. You should be act like a minister. So that's the problem. So Confucius always want to make sure it's Confucius' answer to Ji Kang or any people from Ji family always have this kind of implication. So Ji Kangzi asked Confucius about governance. Confucius replied, to govern is to rectify. If you start to rectify yourself to be upright, then who will dare not to be upright? So here is very famous talking about, in Chinese you will read as 正者正也. Okay, so the first 正 means governance. Okay, the second 正, the pronunciation are identical, and the words are in the same so-called radical. So if you see these two words, they are from the same root. So that means in Chinese, governance means rectification, or you want to call it upright. Okay. So they have, so the words governance, okay, political, already have its moral meaning embedded in the Chinese word. So in another way, the government must be upright, okay, must be correct, because this word and the word upright or rectification are the same pronunciation and share the same radical, also called same root. Okay, so in a way they share the same meaning. That's why when Ji Kangzi asked Confucius about governance, Confucius said to govern is to rectify. Okay, if you rectify yourself, then everybody will be correct. Okay, everybody will be upright. So that's Confucius' idea, and in a way also imply you, okay, Ji Kangzi, it's not upright. That's why people are not upright. 18, it kind of continue on that, right? So Ji Kangzi was concerned about the bandits and asked for advice from Confucius. Confucius replied, if you were not covetous, although you reward people, they will not steal. Okay, so here, Confucius again, you steal the power, you store the power of the state. That's why the common people was steal. Okay, then that's why the state has so many bandits, because you are the person who make the example. Number 19, Ji Kangzi. Okay, Ji Kangzi asked Confucius about governance. Again, right, the same question. Okay, but he asked, how about, he tried to have a suggestion. How about killing those who act without doubt? You know, that means without doubt means doing something evil in order to advance those who act with doubt. That means the good people. Confucius replied, when you govern, why should you use killing at all? If you desire the good itself, the people will be good. The virtue of Junzi is like the wind, and the virtue of small men, which means the common people, is like the grasses. When the wind blows over the grasses, they naturally bend. So the last sentence, the last metaphor is also another very important Confucius political philosophy. He talked about Junzi, which is the person who in charge of government or the government officer. Okay, so and the common people, small men. Okay, the common people. So he's talking about the Junzi. He used the metaphor. Junzi, the officer, is like wind, and the common people is like grasses. So when the wind blow, the glasses will naturally bend. That's Confucius' metaphor. And this one is important, will be different, very different than the later legalism thinking, right? Later legalism thinking, which is represented here, the 季康子 idea, kill the bad one, okay, and later on we say reward the good one, okay. So Confucius' idea is just opposite to the legalism, reward and the punishment. He talk about you set a good example, just like the wind. When you go and all the glasses will bend, they will follow you. So that's Confucius' moral, moral political philosophy. Yeah. I'll stop here and please comment.
So go ahead, anybody that wishes to comment on any of these passages.
DOJ has,
Type exclamation, yeah, DOJ has typed the exclamation point. I didn't see that.
Oh,
Thank you, DOJ. Go ahead, right ahead.
Okay, I have a clarification question and then an observation based on the answer. So the I'm probably not going to pronounce it right. Ji Kang Ji, is it?
Ji
He's
Kang.
say it again.
Ji is the family name. Kang is his name, his title name. Zhi means Mr. Let's put it here.
Okay, is it? Right. Is that person the governor, the one doing the governing?
Yeah, he's the chief. He's okay. During
Right.
that time, the state of Lu had 3 families. Okay, in charge, the powerful family, and the Ji family is the most powerful, and the Ji Kang is the head of the Ji family.
Right. So on that basis, this seems like a very brave comment to make, because he's having a go, isn't he? Okay, so he's saying if you're virtuous, then the people will bend to your will. But there are robbers, so obviously they're not bending to his will. And in the one before that, he's saying if you're upright or virtuous, right, then they're gonna, it's all gonna be fine, right? Because you don't need to offer prizes if everybody's got what they want and all that stuff, right? Meaning, therefore, that he's pretty much telling this guy, you're not doing a very good job, which is why you've got robbers. Am I right in interpreting that way?
Yeah, I would say it's right, but let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. First, this one is recorded later time, right? So we don't know what the actual word Confucius said.
Of course.
The person, right? Actually, if you just upright, just like openly say, okay, because you
okay, so let's rephrase it then. So is the later author, is the later author then criticizing the ruler of the time?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the disciple recorded this one may not be the exactly same word. And when I translate, I probably, because English is always more clear than Chinese. So, Chinese has always had more implication. Okay. So in this way, after translate, it make it even more clear. So sounds Confucius is very brave. But of course he's brave, but probably not that brave. I don't know. It depends on how do you read it. And Kwang, you may have a different comment.
Go ahead, Kwang.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think that Confucius is relatively brave, or I would say brave with reason, in the sense that in China, the rulers always have to show that they are enlightened rulers. So the advisors knows perfectly that the rulers are constrained by that culture, and they cannot act too violently because they would damage their reputation considerably if they kill or if they do something very damageable to a high advisor like Confucius. So I would say that he was brave, but within certain limits. And I would like also to make a comment on 12.19 on the fact that the famous or the infamous, but for me it's famous phrase, the virtue of the Junzi is like the wind and the virtue of the common people is like the grasses. When the wind blows over the grasses, they will surely bend. Okay, so that is one and not yet another statement from Confucianism that can be interpreted as authoritarian, looking down on the common people and blah, 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 which is can be interpreted that way, of course. But here we have to understand that the Junzi here is the person that is epistemologically advanced. So normally there is a concept in classical Chinese culture which is te, and te is translated by virtue, but that virtue, according to Chinese understanding, is not only something in you that will make you have good behavior. The te is also the charismatic virtue. Okay, so if you are truly virtuous, there would be something in you that would influence people to go on the right epistemological evolution for themselves. So if you want to interpret epistemologically that sentence in the right sense, according to me, you have to see it as a positive influence on others so they would get themselves into the epistemological journey. I stop here.
Thank you, Quan. Would anybody
Oh,
else?
sorry.
Go ahead,
Can I
please.
just add, it does seem like they've got a basic understanding of natural selection. If you were just to execute all those people who don't follow the Tao, then then just naturally select or unnaturally select in this case, artificial selection. Then you end up with people who are going to breed people who are in line with the Tao. It's pre-Darwin by how many thousand years? Very good.
That's exactly the legalism, is doing.
Yeah, I was about to ask about legalism too, because you had brought that up. It's like Han Fei 1.0. So yeah, I mean, I was going to well, you know what? We'll go to Oscar first, and then we'll come back to that. I think that's an important point.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So this is my first meetup with the term of Confucius. So far, what I'm understanding is those who set. So governance is basically setting the stage, it's metaphor. But of course, those who set the stage are also responsible in what happens in the stage, basically the environment. So of course, I mean, when they say that the common man bends like the grass, it's basically saying wherever governance goes, most people will go as well. So you are the people in governance are the ones responsible for what actually happens. I mean that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
yeah.
that's a very good summation of where we started this evening with number. Was it 14 or 12, or was it? I think it was 12. So, or no, it was 11. Sorry.
11. Yeah.
It was 11. So yes, very much so. I think that's an accurate statement when it comes to Confucius. Is that the idea of roles and how they're followed is very important. And there's also a lot of ethics around it. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I just like to mention, like, back to the chapter 11, right? The ruler as a ruler, and the minister, father, son. Okay, sounds very simple. Let's put it this way. So it's not why the minister is not act like a minister, because the ruler not act like a ruler, right? Why, in a way, why the son is not acting as son, because the father not acting as father. So in a way, you can see this one. Confucius is not never see like, okay, I be the good ruler, but all other people are bad. No, his idea, we can say it's too idealistic, but that's his view, is the society has a problem because the top people on the top has a problem, okay? And the problem usually is the moral problem. So that's he want to talk. And then here we will see it's significant different than the later legalism teaching, right? Legalism teaching would be reward and the punishment, and then that would be very different than that. And one thing I will kind of reflect on what Kwang talking about the and also DLJ asked the question between the relationship between the ruler and the minister. So here we can see, okay, I just kind of continue from what Kwang talking about. I think that's very important. Doesn't matter for 1,000 years, Chinese ruler, there's many tyrants, okay? And most of them, in my opinion, are not good rulers. Most of them are tyrants, but they all try to pretend be an enlightened ruler, okay? They all try to, at least that we will say that's Confucius' contribution. Doesn't matter how bad you are. And they always try to be enlightened. And same as the minister, they always keep a certain kind of bravery on them, but it's not kind of the, like today you just go out to protest, right? Go to the hell or just yell, not this kind of protest. They try to give suggestion with a reason, with a moral reason, humbly give the reason. So that's the relationship for 1,000 years between the ruler and the minister. I'm not saying that's the right thing or wrong thing, but I'm just saying that's make it special in the Chinese society, or we can say in the general in the Eastern society for 1,000 years. And another side subject is in my opinion, is the communist idea or Russian nihilist idea bring in that totally destroyed the Confucius, this kind of concept. Then we will start to have the mass killing, like Cultural Revolution or this kind of thing. So I think in a way, Confucius' moral teaching may not be the super good supreme morality, but at least it protects very good on the downside. Okay, and then I think the communists probably destroy it. That's my opinion. Sorry.
Go ahead, Oscar. You're gonna follow up, and then we'll go to Mike.
Oh no, I don't have any follow up, but I just had a question. I just want to pose to you guys. Do you think that governance in this scale is necessary for humanity to evolve?
I think that's a deeper question. I'd like to maybe revisit that afterwards. We have a little bit of a discussion afterwards. So, we'll jot that down and then we'll move on. So I don't mean to ignore the question. I promise we will come back to it. But I think it's a great question. But we want to work through the goal is to work through as many passages as possible. And generally we do keep the kind of commentary a little bit succinct into the text during this first hour and a half, whatever it may be. So go ahead, Mike.
Sure. It was kind of related to, it's a little astray right now, but it was regarding like virtue versus truth. So like you could say virtue is something static, like something like, as you mentioned, like, hey, we need to off these people so we can have a smaller amount or something. I would understand that as to be something static, but I would understand truth to be something more so that like resides within an individual, or it could be like a government, but truth can be like a beauty. So it's like it's understood where like if you see someone who is being true to themselves, let's say you see a person walking down the street who is true to themselves, their family, their neighbors, there's something that kind of radiates from them. And I think when truth kind of is like achieved in a sense, it's something that naturally flows. So I kind of took that into like where if the grass would blow, so like the government is the wind and the grass is the people. If the government is being true to their word, the people understand that there is truth within the system, and they will bend because they understand there is a truth. But if there's not a truth, as in there's not kind of if a government's a little off, there's going to be a problem with the bending of the grass.
Thank you very much, Mike. If there are no other comments for these three, we can come back to these afterwards.
So since we are moving a very bit fast, okay, so let's work on the 20 only, and then 21, 22. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're
They are
going
more
a little
related.
longer. Yeah.
Let's do 20.
Okay. So 12.20, Zhu Chang asked, when may a gentleman be said to have attained success? The master said, what do you mean by attaining success? Zhu Chang replied, his name is renowned throughout his state and his household. The master said, this is to be renowned, not to be successful. Attaining success lies in being straightforward in basic substance and loving the right, being perspicacious when listening to others speak and observant of their facial expressions, and bearing in mind deference towards others. Such a person will surely attain success in the state and in his household. As for being renowned, such a man gets a reputation for run from appearances, though his conduct contravenes it, and he is free of self doubt. His name is renowned throughout his state and his household.
Thank you, Kwang. Okay. This one is specifically talking about Zhang. Okay. And we remember, we already talked about Zhang at the beginning, right? On the chapter 14 is about governance. Okay. So Zhang, let's give some background. Zhang is a very young disciple. He's probably 40 years younger than Confucius. And then he has a poor upbringing, and then probably a very ambitious, smart young people. Then probably very successful in government. That's why he asked, and then Confucius had a comment about him. He should be more solid. Okay, so not only work too much on appearance. So again, Confucius, that's a common, I always talk about this, because if you compare Confucius and Socrates, Socrates like to have a general definition, right? What's the meaning of brave? What's the meaning of virtue? Okay, but Confucius' answer is just object. Confucius is always specific when his answer about how to deal with government, his specific answer to that person, what you need to do. So again, I want to read chapter 20 independently, okay, because chapter 20 is specific about Zhang, okay. So Zhang, we can assume he has been working in the government and he probably doing a good job. So he asked, when may a learned person be said to be successful? So he called himself Shi, which means scholar or learned person. So that's he must talk about himself. Okay, he is probably starting a career. You want to know what's the meaning to be what can I do? What do you, in what situation you can be called be successful? The master said, what do you mean being successful? Okay, so it's Confucius asked him to tell him, what do you mean be successful? Zhang replied, his name is to be renowned through the state, to be renowned through his household. Okay. So household here in Chinese called jia, family, but I translate as a household. Basically, we are not talking about your family, 4 people, 5 people, father, mother, and the brother, not this kind of family. Basically, talk about the whole clan of your family, all the group of people share the same last name. So the master said, this is to be renowned, not to be successful. So here to talk about what Zhang's definition is not successful. You just want to have your name out through the state, through the household. Being straightforward and dutiful, carefully listening to people's words and observing their countenance, and being considerate and humble to people. This is to be successful. throughout the state, to be successful throughout the household. To renowned one may have the appearance of learn, but act opposite to it, and never doubt himself. This is to be renowned through the state, and the renowned throughout the household. So the last part, Confucius theory, he kind of point out what Zizang's problem, right? You only have the appearance of learn, but you are not acting with this. So kind of like not really direct criticizing, but kind of give him a warning. This kind of person is dangerous. And actually, when you become successful, you just have your name out. It's not successful. Okay. And what you need to do to be successful, not just renowned. Confucius talk about three things, right? He talking about being straightforward and dutiful. He talk about to yourself, what you do for yourself, right? Be straightforward and dutiful. Second thing, carefully listen to people's word and observing their countenance. That's how you deal with your superior, okay? So you need to carefully listen to their word, and observing people's countenance is very important in Confucius' teaching, as respecting. In Confucius talking about xiao, filial piety. You need to make sure your countenance is right when you treat your facial expression should be right when you talk to your parents. So that's he's talking about. And being considerate and humble to people, which is dealing with the people inferior, lower than you. So here Confucius point out the three things, right? How to deal with yourself, what's the attitude for yourself, how to deal with people superior to you, how to deal with people inferior to you. And that's Confucius' advice, or you can say Confucius' warning to Zizang. Yeah. I'll stop here and please comment.
So go ahead and either raise your hand in Zoom or type exclamation point in the chat if you wish to comment on number 20. Go ahead, DLJ.
So I see reflections of this in modern society. Did they have a problem back then with the celebrity culture? Because that's really what he's having to go at, right?
Yeah, but I would like to say two things. Let's not forget that at the time of Confucius, the aristocrats, the wealthy aristocrats, what men of renown means specifically in this passage, okay, were the wealthy and powerful aristocrats who would pay for retainers, and those retainers, most of the time, but not always, were born in the lower stratum of the nobility, okay? And they would be, those powerful aristocrats would attract them because they would give them food and lodging, and their retainers would offer them theories or methods to govern, okay? So those were the men of renown. So when Zizang was speaking of men of renown, he wanted to be approved by one of those powerful aristocrats in order to make himself a name, to get a job at court, and to advance his own career. So it was very practical.
So yeah, like celebrity culture then.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't learned much, have we?
No, well, I think it's a tad deeper than that, in the sense that essentially, I think that they're judging it more on a moral scale and based on virtue.
I think both of you are right.
Yeah. Well, is there a problem today?
Well, both of you are right in the sense that there is a social, how can I say it, a desire to climb the social ladder, okay? And I would say, why not? Why not? Okay, if you're capable to
That part
do
I agree.
your if you're capable to do your stuff correctly, and if you contribute to society, why not? And there's a deeper epistemological consideration. So I think that both you and D and J are right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. I guess we are on the same page pretty much.
I'd like to a little bit comment on this one.
Yeah, I would like to
This
go.
one, I think I don't know the celebrity culture during that time. I really don't know, but for sure we can see, right? Gossip probably played a role for the social media during that time in the household and in the royal court, right? Because I would assume household probably about 100 people. So if you are doing well, just like, if you think about your cousin, some of the doing CEO, become a professor in Harvard, in a famous school, his name is out, right? Some of your family member or some of your people in the company get a lottery or doing something very special. We all know. So I think that's probably the so-called celebrity culture during that time. But here, I think I'd like to back to the core teaching here. It's very specific to 纸张 because 纸张 is the person not put enough effort on the real work. He's the person work on appearance a lot. Okay, that's why Confucius talking about it need to be in the book 11 talking about 师也辟 only 3 words. 师 is his name, 子张 the name is 辟 辟 means only on the surface, okay, not on the solid work. That's why he's talking about successful. But his definition, I mean, 纸张 the definition of successful is only talking about people know me, right? In the royal court, people know me in my household. And the Confucius want to tell him, okay, not this. This one is not successful. Confucius try to tell him, right? Be dutiful, straightforward when you do your work. Pay attention, okay, listen carefully to people's work. That's, I believe, he's talking about to your superior. Be humble to the people. And then he talked about when you deal with your inferior. So that's Confucius give him the advice on this. So it's a reflection of the solid, the real work, and the appearance, the name. Okay.
One. Okay.
Yeah, there was no Twitter in the past at the time of Confucius, but in the royal courts, among the aristocrats, you have a system of gossips that work as efficiently as Twitter in the past. And among the people, they would make the songs mocking the aristocrats. So there's also a kind of natural telephone system among the people of the different states. For example, when the cousin of the wife of Duke Ling of Wei came to the state of Wei to have an affair with her, the people were making songs about that. And I think that all civilized states in the Central Plain were perfectly aware of the marital affairs of Duke Wei at the time. So, and the other thing is that virtue signaling, because of Confucianism, was very important in the upper class in the past. Okay, as Jason said, one of the positive effects of Confucianism is that the rulers were at least forced to appear enlightened. Okay, so they were constrained to a certain degree to have virtue signaling. But I would say that the difference with the modern times, that virtue signaling is no more limited to the upper class, but is spread among the general population nowadays. I stop here.
Yes, actually, it's been democratized, I guess, so I guess we are making progress in that regard. If there are no other comments, I think that this one actually, when we come back for the the discussion, is I think that really going through what it means to be a person of notoriety versus a person of distinction could actually be a very interesting conversation, and what that actually entails from Confucius era and today. But we will continue on. I
Let's
believe
do
21
21,
to
22. Does it deal with the
Yeah.
same person? 繁殖.
Okay, so we do 21 and 22?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
same person.
Okay, so 12.21, Fan Chu accompanied the master on an outing past the altar of the great rain dance. May I ask about exalting virtue, reforming faults, and discerning confusion? The master said, when asked, be first to the effort and last to take reward. Is that not exalting virtue? To set to work open one's own faults, and not open the faults of others, is that not the way to reform faults? In the anger of the moment, to forget one's safety and that of one's parents, is that not confusion? 12.22, Fan Chu asked about Ran. The master said, cherish people. When he asked about knowledge, the master said, know people. And Fan Chu did not understand. The master said, if you raise up the straight and place them over the crooked, then they can make the crook straight. Fan Chu took his leave and went to see Xia. Just now, I was with the master and asked him about knowledge. He said, if you raise the straight and place them over the crooked, they can make the crook straight. What did he mean? Xia said, how rich these words are. When Shun possessed the word, he picked Gao Yao out from among the multitudes, and those who were not run kept far distant. When Tang possessed the word, he picked Yi Ying out from among the multitudes, and those who were not run kept far distant.
Thank you, Kwon. Yeah.
Thank you, Quan.
Yeah, that's a little bit long, and then I'll deal with them. I believe that's the first time we meet this student called Fan Chi. Okay. Chi means slow, delayed. Okay. So, and in reality, Fan Chi is one of the slow, always delay, not quick response. So we will say the IQ probably not that high. Okay, this kind of student, but thank him because he always, because most of Confucius dialogue and the analog, right? The dialogue when Confucius talk to the student ask question, Confucius answer, the students got it. Okay, and the Fan Chi always ask. And then apparently Confucius is tired of Confucius not only give him a further explanation, and Fan Chi that never understand the further explanation that he has to ask his classmate, and his classmate has to explain to him. But because of this, we probably can know better about Confucius' philosophy or moral teaching. So this is two session about Fan Chi, and I think the next book 13 also have another famous one. So by all this, we can figure out the personality of Fan Chi, not only slow and then, but he must be a very solid person. Opposite than Zizang, he probably worked too much on the detail. So in a way, we can say he's a detail-oriented person. He put too much detail on that. That's my understanding. And then in book 13, you probably will find out he's this kind of person. So that just put this one in the background. Let's see chapter 21. Fan Ci was wandering with the master under the rain altar of Wu Yu. Okay, so here, if you remember the last chapter of book 11, the Confucius with 4 students, they sit in the place. The place called Wu Yu. That's the rain altar. Okay, that's the place people can relax. And over there, they have a hot spring. You can take a bath over there, public bath over there. So that's the place, just like today's Central Park or the area. People can sit there, chat, and relax. So Fan Ci was wandering with the master under the rain altar of Wu Yu. I like to sidetrack a little bit about the word wandering. In Chinese, called yu. Okay, since I'm very into, I'm more Taoism than Confucianism. So when you read Zhuangzi, the Taoism reading, Zhuangzi will use a lot of words called yu, wandering. We call wandering. Whenever you go someplace, whenever you think about something, whenever you visit some place, they all call Zhuangzi, or in the Taoism, always call wandering. But in Confucius, I check the word. That's the only word used here as wandering. Okay, wandering means you go someplace or excursion, right? Go someplace without certain purpose. So that means Confucianism is always purposeful. You always have some purpose. And the Taoism has less on the purpose. So I find out this word yu is only used positively once in this word. So it's interesting. So Fan Ci was wandering with master under the altar, the rain altar of Wu Yu. So they are relaxed during that time. Okay. So he means Fan Ci asks, may I ask exalting virtue, correct mistakes, and discerning confusion? Okay. So this question has been asked in, I think in book 1126, book 11, oh, no, the same chapter, 10, right? If you check 12:10, okay, 子章, okay, ask about exhaustion version and the discerning confusion. 子章 already asked the question. So Confucius give him the answer. So here, Fan Ci is going to ask the same question again. And that's why Fan Ci is slow. That's why this chapter is much longer. So here, Fan Ci was wandering with the master under the rain altar of Wu Yu. He said, may I ask about exalting virtue, correct mistakes, and the discerning confusion? The master said, good question. That's a very good question. Be first to work and the last to gain. Is that not exalting? So Confucius talk about exalting virtue means you work and don't think about what the reward. It means probably Fan Ci think too much, okay, in the detail. So you hesitate, criticize your own weakness and do not criticize others' weakness. Is that not corrected mistake? In moments of anger, to endanger yourself and your parent, is that not confusion? So I think in chapter 10, we talked about confused, right? When are you confused? Because you just use Kuang's word, the inferior emotion, right? In the chapter 10, Confucius talked about why you are confused, because you love a person at the same time you hate a person. You want the person alive, also want the person to die. So that's confusion. So because your inferior emotion. So here again, we talk about in the moment of anger, you endanger yourself. You don't control yourself. You endanger yourself and your parents, because if you do something dangerous, it's also endanger your parents. So that's Confucius' answer to Fan Ci with the same question asked by Zizang. So 22 is more famous on this one because here hardly Confucius, very few define the meaning of word. And in this paragraph, Confucius defined two words of 人 and wisdom. So Fan Ci asked about 人, that's a big question, right? So Confucius gives a very short answer, love people. So this one become a very important definition for in Confucius. Then he asked about wisdom, and the master said, know people. So 人 means love people. Wisdom means know people. So Eno's translation and a lot of translation translate the word 知 as knowledge, but put everything in this content. I believe this word should translate as wisdom, not knowledge, because when you talk about knowledge as knowing people, it logically doesn't make sense to me. So, of course, Fan Ci will not immediately understand. So Fan Ci didn't fully understand. So the master said, master gives a detailed explanation. Raising up the upright and setting them above the crooked will make the crooked upright. I think this saying he is in the book 2, Confucius already talked to, I think, Duke I of Lu, okay, talking about to raising up the right people, raising up the upright and setting them above the crooked will make the crooked upright. That's the same philosophy Confucius had, right? Put the upright person, the good person on the top, and then the person below, even they are crooked or bad person, they will become upright. So that's Confucius' idea. So of course, Fan Ci still not understand. So Fan Ci left. Okay. So Zixia, that's another smart student, and said, a while ago I saw the master and asked about wisdom. The master said, raising up the upright and setting them above the crooked will make the crooked upright. What did he mean? Zixia said, how rich this world are. When the sage king Sun governed the world, he bring up the example 1500 years before their time. He select Gao Yao among the people and raised him as a prime minister. The people who were not Ren stay far away. So he used the example 1500 years ago when the sage king Sun selected Gao Yao. So that's why Confucius talking about wisdom means knowing people. He know who is the right people and select him as the prime minister. So everything will work. Then Zixia give another example. When another sage king, Tang governed the world, he talking about the example about 1,000 years ago, governed the world. He select Yi Yin among the people, raising him as prime minister. The people who are not Ren stay far away. So here, I believe here is talking about Fan Ci, probably too detail-oriented. So Confucius and Zixia is telling Fan Ci, you just put the right people. I will assume Fan Ci is doing some government job. So you just put the right people in charge, and then everything will be right. So you need to know who is the right people to select. I think that's Confucius' teaching about wisdom, and specifically for Fan Ci, because he probably too detail-oriented on this. So I'll stop here, and please comment.
All right. Anybody wish to comment? TLJ looks like, I'm assuming that's an exclamation point.
Oh, well, only because I was using it as an exclamation point. No, I was just saying, obviously, this is advocating meritocracy, right? I'm just wondering how that would work in a democratic system when a mass of people will choose the right person for the job. Maybe not.
Oh, ye of little faith.
Yeah.
Quan. Quan.
Okay, once again, one of the major idea in 12.22 is precisely the charismatic virtue. Okay, because I know I repeat it, but I think it's a major concept in Confucianism. A virtue is something that is inside you that would make you do the right thing. Okay, the four major virtue: wisdom, valor, humanity, and justice. But also there is a charismatic dimension in that virtue, according to the Chinese classical understanding, that if you have that run, you would be capable to influence people almost by magic and to shift them on the right way rather than and the small man would be the person who would bring people on the primrose path. Okay, that is a very stark distinction, and often in historical books from ancient China you have role models who possess the charismatic virtue, and the anti role models who were people leading people to the primrose path.
Thank you for that, Quan. Let's see if there's anybody else wishes to comment. Anybody else wish to comment on number 20? I mean, I like the use of wisdom with that, Jason. And I think that this is this chapter as well as chapter 11. Chapter 11 more so. It was readily apparent that of how to how to cultivate virtue. I mean, he was kind of talking to each one of his students and what areas they needed to work on. And so there's an element of he was actually, some people needed to work because they were greedy, and so they actually had to adjust their behaviors. Some people needed to work just a little bit harder. And it's interesting to see him go through the different personalities of his students. And now we're going over the ethics again. And we can come back to this in detail. I really do think that this is something, because I would like to go over the concept of Ren as well as Li, because I think that they're essential to the metaphysics of Confucianism. So maybe when we get to finished, but let's try and go ahead and finish book 12, and then Mon will be proud of us.
Yeah, that's great. That's the first time we can. I think our original idea is to finish in 1.5 hours, right? So that's the first time.
Well, yeah, we did. We had a plan of that, but
yeah. So we can finish the 23, 24, and thank you, Kwang, to read. And,
yeah, thank you, Kwang.
To friendship.
Okay. So 12.23, Zukong asked about friends. The master said, advise them loyally and guide them well. If this does not work, desist. Do not humiliate yourself. 12.24, Master Zheng said, a Junzi attracts friends through his pattern behavior and employs friends to assist him in the run.
Thank you, Kwang. And let's finish this book, chapter 12. 20. Okay, so that's all about friendship or friends. Okay. Zigong asked about friendship. The master said, advise them honestly and guide them well. Desist if this doesn't work. Don't humiliate yourself. And Aman would like to translate as don't dishonor yourself. So it seems Confucius, when Zigong asked about friendship or friends, okay, Confucius' answer is the way of treating your friend. That's Confucius' view of friendship. Or that's the way Confucius answered this question. Okay. So I think in the entire Analects doesn't talk about a lot of thing about friendship, and that's the one. And there's another one. They all have about moral cultivation, because the reason of your friend is to improve each other's morality or virtue. 24, Zheng Zi said, I think in book 8, that's all about Zheng Zi. And the Zheng Zi is, if you remember in book 11, Zheng Dian or Zheng Xi is Zheng Zi's father. Okay, so he's much, much younger. Zheng Zi here is much younger. But I think this word is very interesting and very important, at least to me. A Junzi used culture to meet his friends. Through his friend, he developed the virtue of Ren. Okay, so translate as a pattern. So of course, I disagree on this part. I respect most of the translation, but this pattern I just cannot agree. But I think this one, we talk about Junzi use culture to meet his friend, just like we use philosophy to know each other. Okay, so in another side is you have a business friend, you have a drinking buddy, which is not using the culture or literature to know your friend, to cut, and only this kind of friend can cultivate or develop the virtue of learning. So we end up book 12, and let's stop here and please come.
So this, go ahead and you can comment on 23 or 24, or we can revisit a lot of the topics that we had tabled. I think that there's a lot of interesting topics that we could be covering this evening. The friendship, I actually don't recall. What is the other section in the book, Jason, where friendship is indeed covered?
I believe that we haven't talked about this yet, right?
Yeah, okay. All right.
I don't remember, but it's not a lot about friendship.
It's interesting.
I just put the translation in it. So every end, the book, I will put the translation, the PDF file. So you're welcome to download. And then if you pay attention on the meetup page, and I start to put the recording and the translation in the meetup page. I just do it. I didn't. I'm sorry to delay. I supposed to do it early time, but I just do it last night. So from now on, if you pay attention on the meetup page, they have the. I will include the translation and the video recording in the meetup page.
So, are there any comments regarding the idea of friendship for this?
Yeah, I put an exclamation mark in there, but I'm not sure. I think I might want to retract it. I'm just curious about the use of the word. Is it use friends, or is it rely on friends, or get friends to assist you? What's the term they're using? They don't mean, squeeze your friends. It's not like kind of use friends in the utility sense, right?
No.
What's the translation of that word that goes before friends?
Yeah, honestly, be honest, is unfortunately, I think Confucius should probably use the friends as a means instead of
Oh wow.
the end.
Okay.
So
I was expecting-
that's the way I read the. Let me show you the words here.
That's very
So,
uncharitable. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually,
unfortunately, okay. So here, 以有辅人. 以 means usually this word 以 that means use. Okay, so the words follow this word. That means the means. Okay, so that's why I'm personally I don't like Confucius' idea of a friendship. Okay, because they always have a purpose on that. So personally, I probably prefer a drinking party than
Okay.
use friends means.
I'm glad I asked now because I thought no, it can't be that, and I nearly retracted it. Okay, well, I've learned something.
Yeah, I just try to be honest. So be loyal to the word.
There you go.
Oh, you have a suggestion?
you know, but that being said, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, you're using them, but you're using them to acquire virtue. So, I mean, you know, are you really using them? I mean, you know,
The ends justify the means.
if they're making you better. I mean, to be quite honest, this is something that very harshly the Stoics state. Epictetus does, in that, you know, and it's an act of really more so of humility, because the admission is that you have to be around friends that help you acquire virtue, because if you're not, that you're more likely to slip into vice. So it's actually an admission of your own, it's a form of humility, it's an admission of your own fallibility. So I think that every relationship that people enter into, I think there's give and take. Now, I do think 23 is faithful, and the one I have actually says, faithfully admonish your friend and skillfully lead him on. If you find him impeccable or impractical, stop. Do not disgrace yourself.
So we can see, right, 23 and 24, that's pretty just be faithful to the word, right? But 24, Confucius talking about using friends to develop your virtue. Okay, so use friend as a means. So easy you come with the question, right? How about this friend is a bad friend, right? He doesn't help you. You cannot use this friend to improve or develop the virtue of what you do. So you go back to 23, right? Zigong said, advise them honestly and guide them well, right? So if your friend cannot be used as a means to improve your virtue, then you advise him, okay, and try to guide him well. But to some point, desist if it doesn't work, okay? Don't humiliate yourself. So Confucius is very practical. I believe he doesn't want you to stay together with this friend because he's not helping you. So, but in the later part, he talked about another way to look at this bad friend is as a warning for yourself, right? Because he's bad, so I should not be like him. So that's another way to take a friend as a means, because you are good, you help me to improve. If you are bad, then, you know, I advise you. If it doesn't work, I stop. And your bad behavior can show as a warning sign for myself. So it's also worked. That's my interpretation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Quan.
Well, once again, classical education always make a stark distinction between what is superior and between what is inferior. Okay, it's a repeating theme of a classical education. And in Chinese, you have an expression for the drinking buddies. Okay, the drinking buddies are called 酒肉朋友. Okay, words for word is mean the friends for wine or for alcohol and meat. Okay, meaning that the drinking buddies is a perfect translation for 酒肉朋友. D and J right here, classical education or class indoctrination. Well, once again, you always have it's the two sides of the same coin. The epistemological evolution is real, but it's also the banner of the upper class. Okay, so the big question is the upper class worthy of its position of upper class, or is it only an appearance? So we go back to 12.22. What is success? And I think it's an everlasting question. Okay, because that's for sure that an epistemological teaching or classical teaching can always be used as a virtue signaling for a plutocratic class. Okay, I think we cannot escape that. That's why I call it the two sides of the same coin. And so you have the 酒肉朋友 and the drinking buddies, and you have the 知音. Okay, 知音 means a person who knows my inner voice. So it's the one who would be capable to go with me on the epistemological journey, because it's a difficult journey, and would give me assistance and companionship on that epistemological journey. Okay, because we know very well that certain of our friends, I'm sorry to use that word, are useful to be drinking buddies. Maybe we look down a little bit on them by seeing them only as drinking buddies, and I think that maybe we should observe them with more love or more clarity. Maybe they more than that, but among our friends, we all see certain of our friends as drinking buddies, and we would be more inspired by other friends that would be more in the category of 知音 according to the classical Chinese lexicon. So once again, the people who look down only as drinking buddies, maybe they are much more than that, and we don't have the eyes to see them. But I think that we more or less all make that classification. That some could be role models and others less role models. I think that the best way to escape a judgment is that that person cannot be a role model for me, but it doesn't mean that that person is not a role model for others.
That's
So I think
interesting as well.
Yeah. So what I find with the drinking buddies, and you saying looking down on them, what I find is the more you drink, the more you love everybody. So it's
It depends on your temperament.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that some would be more violent.
I think I tell you, I would yes, that's absolutely so. I would suggest that self-knowledge would be very important. Wisdom would be very important in that particular instance. Because of, yes, if you're out with friends, I definitely had friends that were not good drinkers. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
medically speaking, alcohol is a molecule that would remove the inhibitions. Okay, so when the inhibitions are removed, what is exposed is your deep personality, and we don't have the same personality. Everyone has a different personalities, and some personality are interesting to be that the inhibitions are removed, and others maybe less.
Would anybody else like to comment or on any of the on book 12 in general, or in
maybe I will take 30 seconds, because what D and J said in his written comment is very interesting, and it's the tragedy of Confucianism, of Platonism, of all philosophy, is that the epistemological journey can very easily be used by a plutocratic class as a banner for their virtue signaling. Okay, and there you have to be very authentic and very sincere with yourself to be clear. Do you use it as a banner for virtue signaling or for justifying the power of your class, or you're truly on the epistemological journey? I stop here.
Yeah, friendship is unique because in a way it almost gets to categories, and just when you get to categories, I immediately think of Aristotle's forms of relationships. When you have friendships of utility, friendships, what is it? Is it not friendships of convenience? It's like the friendships was circumstance, something along that. Well, so something along those lines, and then you have friendships of virtue, which is the highest form of virtue. And those are to be cultivated in order for not only because there's a closeness that exists between you, but also that there's they are helping you to become a better person. And essentially, that's what I see to be a friend. To be quite honest, would you put it this way? Would you want them to do the opposite? And I mean, that's what you have to ask yourself. And are they really a friend in that particular instance? I wouldn't think so. So maybe we actually can come back to one of the areas that I thought was a little bit interesting, where we talk about notoriety versus distinction. I thought that was a particular interest. Essentially, what would be how would you distinguish those two in detail, like in the personality sense? I mean, I can think of it in terms of, I can think of them in terms of, the passage itself, where there is something about being. There's that number. What number was that? Hang on. I usually write down the number. 20. Yeah, he talks about being straightforward, which actually implies that there is an integrity and sincerity in the relationship, but also an honesty. So that would require that. He also talks about love and righteousness. Basically, I look at love and righteousness in the sense that somebody that is focusing on virtue and what is truly good, and I want to say yes, he is anxious to humble himself to others. Yeah, I think that's something that is also interesting in the sense that doesn't necessarily overvalue the opinions of people. He's actually searching for some degree of feedback that is accurate, aligned with reality, and but it's also interesting how I read essentially how Aristotle looks at humility and pride as two ends of the spectrum. And obviously, you don't want to be too humble where you're obviously not thinking enough. You don't have enough self-esteem, or you don't want somebody that's pride and telling you how wonderful they are, because neither are of that. Somebody that's it's not somebody that's balanced, or it would be very hard for them to practice virtue in either circumstance. So it's just interesting to think about it in those terms. But those are the qualities of maybe that personal distinction. So How about a person of notoriety? How would everybody clarify that? Anybody wish to take a crack at it? The way it was defined in number 20. Okay.
Well, I think that number is very, very central in all Confucianism because what is to be successful? And once again, let's not forget that it's not forbidden in Confucianism to be rich, because let's not forget that there is a line in the Analects, I don't remember where, but that is normal for a gentleman to like sex, wealth, and success and social honor. So uh, it has never been a problem in Confucianism to be successful on in this life. On the contrary, and the only thing that you would not get that success through inappropriate methods or through behavior that would be not virtuous.
So sorry, sorry, I need to go. And then,
Okay. Well,
so
actually, DLJ just messaged me, and we can come back to this. I want to come back to this, and I also want to come back to number one with role ethics. But Oscar, do you wish to pose? DLG was kind enough to remind me that of your question. Do you wish to pose it again?
Yes, I was trying to pose it differently. So I came up with it. So my question would be, is governance necessary to set limits for an individual to a large community? To let governance be a guide to its citizens by creating a framework where everyone can have an opportunity to work together for their overall common goal. Is this one of the ways? Is this one of the ways we can evolve? That was basically my question.
Answer is
What-
yes.
Well, I think that the reality is yeah, the answer is yes. But if you're asking in terms of Confucianism, I think if you go back to number where we started earlier today, when they were talking about having distinct roles, and yes, the governance they would have a common goal. Now, an interesting question is, how is that common goal, determined? And so I think this is why Confucius is also speaking to leaders of the time and speaking to the importance of them filling their roles and doing it well and actually, being virtuous. But but hey, Quan, you have your hand up. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, because the way I understand the question from Oscar is, I would transform his question, and I hope I will not be too much of a traitor in transforming his question. But the way I understand his question, that what is sovereignty and how to achieve it, and who is sovereign and why? Okay, I will give a very brutal answer to who is sovereign and why. Okay, the plutocratic answer is that if I have the wealth and the power and the way and the tools to punish you if you don't obey me, well, that's a legitimization of sovereignty, and it's acceptable to a certain extent. Okay, if you go back to Confucius or to Plato, in the Republic, in the chapter 1 of the Republic, there's a character called Thrasymachus who said that justice is the advantage of the powerful. Okay, so that's, if we want to be very, very down to earth, it has been a question, it has been an answer that has been accepted or at least tolerated for very long. Okay, the powerful and the wealthy are sovereign because they have the means to be sovereign. But if we try to go further, maybe there is something called the epistemological development, meaning refinement of the mind so that we can uplift ourselves to superior emotions. The superior emotions being loyalty to the community, loyalty to yourself also, loyalty to yourself, because after all, what is the epistemological journey? Okay, because there is a metaphysical thesis with the epistemological journey. Okay, and the metaphysical thesis, if I stay in Confucianism, because we are discussing Confucianism tonight, is that there are 4 seeds called commiseration, respect, capacity to discern the right and the wrong, and a metaphysical shame. And if those metaphysical seeds are rightly nurtured, they become justice, valor, humanity, and wisdom. So there is a metaphysical thesis in the offer of the epistemological journey. And I would say that in the past, at least in China, and I'm not saying that China is better, okay? Because if you study the history of China, most of the time, the rulers were tyrants, and they were ruling China based upon the plutocratic principles, meaning that I am the ruler, I have sovereignty because I have wealth and power, and the tools to punish you if you don't obey me. Okay, I want to be very down to earth, and I'm not the whitewashing China, please believe me. But there is also a small stream within Chinese civilization which propose the metaphysical thesis of the epistemological journey, that there is a way to uplift ourselves to superior emotions and not only be manipulated by inferior emotions such as greed, envy, jealousy, anger, etc.
I'm curious, Oscar, how would you answer that question even in contemporary terms?
Well, I would say that the last 2 centuries introduced a lot of, for me, of the treatment, and the treatment is a high education, a classical education offered to everyone, plus professional training. Okay, because let's not mix up professional training, which is one stuff, and a timeless education or classical education. Okay, the classical education is more for the character. Okay, if we use Platonic terminology, is to bring forth what is from within. Okay, educare from Latin, to bring forth what is from within. And once again, we have to go back to the metaphysical thesis that is shared by all classical education, be it in China, in the West, in Greece, or name the place you want. I often mention Plato and Confucius because they are my favorite philosophers, but I'm sure there are other answers. The common metaphysical thesis of all classical education is that there are some timeless forms that are already present in us. And if they were not already present in us, we would not be capable to cultivate them, to develop them, to refine them. Okay. And the metaphor of the seed is perfect. Okay. Because without the seed, there would be no tree. Okay. So even if there are other factors contributing to the creation of the tree, like sunlight, like water, like nutrients, etc. But the fundamental cause of the tree is the seed of the tree, because without that seed, even with nutrients, with sunlight, with water, etc., there would not be no tree. Okay, so that metaphor is perfect. If they were not those timeless form called the metaphysical seed within our mind to be developed, there would be, it's not possible to develop or to refine the cardinal virtues of justice, wisdom, humanity, and valor.
Agreed. I do think it's tied to education. I mean,
Yeah,
essentially,
absolutely,
that-
absolutely.
that's essentially if you have an educated populace, then yes, that's shown.
Does Oscar have an answer to the question? Oscar?
What's that?
I'm curious whether Oscar has an answer to his own question.
Yeah, me too, actually.
No, I
Even in contemporary, that you don't have to necessarily put in Confucius terms.
I mean, so just to my own question, do I think governance is necessary to set limits? I think the framework is necessary. I mean, so without the framework, we wouldn't have limits, and then how can we have a sense of community without some type of framework? Where again, this is why I pose the question where it gives us an opportunity to work together for an overall common good. Now, is it going to be a perfect system? No, it's not. But this will give us an opportunity to evolve to try to get to that point. But yes, I mean, I think governance is necessary. It's just unfortunate that I think the issue is when it comes to I think money it's what corrupts everything, and greed, and it's only possible because
I'm sorry.
No, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I would like to dig a little bit deeper on that, but I think that one thing that Quan had pointed out that was very important is the idea of sovereignty and why and how you achieve that sovereignty. And I think that adds to some legitimacy to the leadership itself. But however, I would like to actually just know a little bit more about, when you say framework, which framework are you talking about?
I can chip in
I'm
with
sorry.
the government.
I'm sorry. I just unmute. So basically, the framework that has been placed on us, the people that are elected to, to impose these laws on us. I mean, this is or the moral, what's morality and what's ethics. I think that's what I'm talking about when I speak of the framework that's imposed. Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, well, yeah, I would say imposed on us. So that's what I'm trying to say.
So you're saying how kind of a virtue framework would then impact society, and but how does that fit into like the governance structure and leadership overall? Like, so we were talking a little bit about it earlier, as the idea that only DLJ is not satisfied with our elected officials. So it's like everybody else is satisfied. And I'm joking, of course. I think we should, all have our reservations about those who even want to be in politics. But anyway, so what was you're talking about governance? I'm thinking about political frameworks. So is there a political framework that you think you have in mind?
No, at this time, I know it's a very vague question. I can't.
It's a very good question to understand Confucius, because it gives you context as to, especially this is your first session, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
It gives you context as to actually knowing what, even as much as a half a chapter does, that as to what kind of governance was actually functioning at that time, and why Confucius was actually insisting that not only that are trying to convey virtue to them, and not only in that perspective, why it was important for things like to be ritualistic. That was one of his important things, is that not only did being ritualistic, and I'm not necessarily for that, but it's a sense that had a respect for those who had come before you. And I think that that's where we can talk a little bit about what it takes to become a junzi, a little bit, if you wish. But and that's a noble person, and essentially that's what us, that's just is driving us towards. DLJ, I think you had an answer.
Oh, well. So I ought to point out that I'm biased because I'm a teacher of a governance framework. So obviously I'm going to be a fan, right? But I think we need to make a distinction between governance versus governing or government. So a governance framework is things like roles and responsibilities and goals and all that kind of stuff, right? Whereas government framework is going to be more like the political structures you have. So democracy or meritocracy or so on. And I'm not sure which actually now Confucius is referring to, because the word is often governance, which means maybe it means something different now than it did then.
I mean, I'm not familiar with that, but there's a lot we can unpack with that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's probably it, really, because the question was governance framework, and that's absolutely right. But what method how you implement that governance framework is a slightly different question.
Okay.
Whether we need
So,
controls, governance as in controls, self-control, like the controls of the car, right? So how fast would you drive if you didn't have any brakes? You wouldn't,
No.
you wouldn't, right? It's too dangerous, right? So having controls is not the same as being controlling or being controlled by a hierarchy or a flat structure or whatever.
Well, that's a very important point. Is that, is it more of a horizontal kind of power structure where the power is distributed as much as possible, or is it more hierarchical that kind of answers Oscar's question? Now, if we go back to Confucius, it's clearly hierarchical at that particular time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and so the question then becomes, there are examples of this today. So, I mean, I'll go, but I'll defer to Quan for now. I do want to come back to the 5 relationships and the friendships and the roles aspect of things, because that's important.
Yeah. Is it my turn?
Please.
Okay. I think the distinction that DNJ just brought is perfect for the discussion. Okay. In classical China, meaning for the period from 1046 BCE, the beginning of the Zhou dynasty, and I would even say from 1600 BCE, okay, the beginning of the Shangying dynasty, to even now, okay, I dare to take that hypothesis, okay. For the Chinese thought, it's always a framework in terms of government, is always a framework which is hierarchical, as Joe said perfectly. And it's always top down, okay? Because, and I would say that even before 1912, which is the end of the Chinese Empire, so between 1600 BCE to 1912 CE, so during those almost 4 millennia, the only framework that is acceptable for the Chinese thinking people at the time was monarchy. So the only thing, so there were no discussion about the framework of government. And so that's why I think that the distinction by DNJ is perfect. So there was no question about the framework of government, because that framework is monarchy, and that's all. So it introduced the nuance of governance. What kind of monarchy? Because once again, I wouldn't limit myself to Confucianism, okay? In the classical Chinese education as conveyed by Confucianism, you have superior emotions and inferior emotions. You have superior people who are inhabited by superior emotions, and you have inferior people, or the small man, okay? The superior people are the gentlemen, of course, the junzi, and the small man, the petty man, the xiaoren, are the people inhabited by inferior emotions. Okay, that distinction is absolutely clear and stark, and there is no discussion about that. So, in terms of governance, since the framework of government is only monarchy, so the only thing that is possible is you have rulers who are superior persons or rulers who are inferior persons. And all the classical Chinese education was striving to create rulers who are gentlemen, okay, rulers who uh, went through the epistemological journey and are truly gentlemen as defined by what is success in 12.20. Okay, so I think that in the chapter 12 is very special because most of the time in the other 19 chapters, you have sometimes you have answers who are very specific and very clear, but sometimes you have answers who can be debated and interpreted at many layers. What is special with chapter 12 is that that chapter, all the answers are perfectly crystal clear. Okay.
Right.
What is to be successful? You cannot give a more crystal clear than what has been given in 12.20. And what is the run? You cannot give a more crystal clear answer than what is given in 12.1. That meaning that the run is to conquer yourself and return to Li. Okay, if you read all the other definition of run in the rest of the Analects, it's very debatable. It can be discussed to the end of the world. But 12.1, run is to conquer yourself and to return to Li. It's perfectly crystal clear. So, what is important in Confucianism is to educate, to bring forth from within, educare, the four cardinal virtues, and here the Chinese and the Westerners use the same words, the four cardinal virtues of justice, of wisdom, of valor, and of humanity, and sometimes humanity is also called moderation. Okay, so the Greek call humanity moderation, the Chinese also call humanity by the second word, moderation. So that is the core of the classical Chinese education because to be frank, and I want to develop a little bit that stuff because ideologically, the fact that there is some problem between the US and China right now is not only rivalry, okay? Because most of the time people would say, oh, it's because of practical rivalry, blah, blah, blah. It's not the same that the first Cold War because there's no ideology, etc. Well, I beg to differ. There is a lot of ideology in the US-China rivalry right now because from the US intellectual and philosophical legacy tend for democracy. Okay, even if I think that the US now is not a democracy, but it's a plutocracy with a virtue signaling of democracy. But still, I think that in the heart, in the mind, the soul of many Americans, they truly believe they still in the republic or a democracy. Okay, so we human are contradictory and we complex people. Okay, even if the US is a plutocracy, I still believe that many American in their heart truly believe that it's still a democracy. But in China, most people think that it's not important, that the electoral system is not important. What is important is to have good leaders, capable and virtuous leaders who would be capable to deliver the goods that most people want, okay? And what most people want, they want safety, they want food, they want clothing, they want homes, they want good public transportation, they want public safety, they want public hygiene, they want justice, they want a good education. I would say that most people want those stuff. And in China, they just don't care if they have election or not. They want leaders capable to deliver those stuff. So I think that there is truly an ideological battle here. and not only a geopolitical or geoeconomic rivalry.
You know, it's funny.
Well said, sir. I've just got to go here to that. Yes.
And I'm in agreement, and it's also that you see, you know, more, shall we say, authoritarian regimes, because that's what they, you know, hierarchical regimes are, and ones that are maybe not, as you mentioned, a true democracy, but at least their residents believe that it is, and that's debatable. I'm not trying to. I'm just rephrasing. But there's an alignment between these two countries, and actually, in order to address problems, and this kind of gets to the reason I was asking Oscar about the contemporary aspect of things. I thought it's an interesting question when you talk about frameworks of government, in the sense that which one would you choose in order to be able to pursue the most freedom, shall I say?
Yes.
And I just think that this is but if you took something like COVID, if you had a very streamlined process or regime that could actually respond very quickly, even though I don't agree with China's response, but there was no bureaucratic channel in that particular instance. But with us, there was a lot of back and forth. Anyway, I'm just talking about the differences between those two.
And I would add that the kind of regime that the American people want for themselves, it's for the American to choose. And the kind of regime that the Chinese people want to rule them, it's for the Chinese people to choose. And I would
Right.
say that there is the true international democracy, okay? In the sense that the basic ideological question, is it better to be in a system with electoral system and system with top-down authority? I think that we can debate till the end of the world. But what we can quite reach to the right attitude, if I hope that we are open-minded enough to say that it's for the American to decide the kind of regime they want, and it's for the Chinese to decide for the kind of regime they want. I think that's a minimum. As the Americans say, let's agree to disagree.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know. I don't know if you have any additional comments, Oscar, that you want to share based off of the exchanges, or if you're good for now.
No,
Oh, it's good to know.
I'm just listening, but thank you.
Okay, no problem. I want to talk. I think that was number 12, and maybe for people that aren't familiar with the 5 relationships. Quan, you know them by heart.
Yeah, well, it's top down. It's top down. The sovereign and the subjects.
Yeah,
the husband and the wife.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sovereign and the subject, and that's kind of what I got out of this number 12 when I was thinking about that and the implications of that. But it also gets to a deeper question, which I had written down somewhere. He also talked about justice, actually, as well, I think, in the follow-on in 13 or 14, and how justice is actually executed. But nonetheless, how that actually fits into, the role ethics and the responsibilities that people have are expected of them in Confucianism. And so it's very traditional in the sense that even the husband and wife the older brother and the younger brother, and even as we were just talking about with the friend and friend. All these are, kind of captured in those relationships, and we kind of saw two sets of them this evening. We saw the ones with friendship, and we've also seen the ones with governance, the ruler and the subject. So with that, I think that that's maybe an interesting thing to explore as far as what it means in Confucianism. Actually, we covered it a little bit, but ruler and subject and friend, because I don't think the friend and friend is so it differs too much, in my opinion, and I'm just from traditional virtue ethics.
Yeah. Well, friend
When
and
they talk
friends,
about friends of virtue.
yeah. I would say that friend and friend is probably the only relation that is not hierarchical in the five relations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because you have sovereign and subject, you have husband and wife, you have older brother and older and younger brother. Okay, same for sisters, and uh, you have the teacher and you have the student. Okay, so you have four hierarchical relations, and you have the last one, friend and friend, which is not hierarchical, because even if we take the distinction between the drinking buddies and the
Right.
friends that would be an inspiration for us, the friend who is an inspiration for us, even if we look up to him, uh, because we are willing to, okay, it's not defined by a strict hierarchy.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's that what I think is really interesting with that. So the friend and friend isn't hierarchical,
Non-hierarchical.
not hierarchical. And so with that, and this is why I don't think it really differs too much from virtue ethics, is that or if how even the Greeks would define friendship in a way, because while we were explaining it earlier as a kind of a friendship as utility, I looked at it as more of a friendship of virtue, because you could have a friend of a different class, but as long as they're helping you pursue virtue, that's my understanding, is that is the equal. That comes back to the idea that it's non-hierarchical. You're just looking for somebody that is a virtuous person.
Yeah, a role model for you, but you chose him to be a role model. No one
Right.
forced you to choose him.
Yeah, I think that's actually, and I think that's an interesting point, especially when we're talking about the idea of role ethics. But those are the other one I'll come back to is, I still want to come back to this idea where we were talking about, we talked about a distinguished person and a one of notoriety. And so we talked about what I thought some of the qualities of a distinguished person, somebody that had things, but how would Confucius maybe outline the one of notoriety? Now he does say some things about this as well, but maybe anybody wants to offer in their own words. He says the man of notoriety assumes appearance of virtue, as we were just talking about a little bit earlier, with virtue signaling, but his actions are opposed to it, and he rests the character without any doubts about himself. In this character, without any doubts about himself. So he's pretty arrogant. And so on top of that, I find this to be interesting because from one other's perspective is that one thing that I have learned about Confucius that has been stated repeatedly is the importance of learning, of continuous learning, and whatever, in learning, I mean learning how to be a better human being. And this, where he says, he doesn't have any doubts about himself, then you're not necessarily learning, you're closed off everybody. So from that perspective, I see it as, this person of distinction as being kind of the opposite of what it means to be a Confucian. And I know that that's nothing revealing, but I think it does have implications as to, I don't know, as far as role ethics are concerned. Any comments or? Well, if not about that, then maybe we could talk a little bit about which number was it? Well, actually, something we could explore, and I think because we have a lot of new people here tonight. I think everybody here is actually, with the exception of Kevin, Vaughn, is new. DLJ, you probably have been exposed quite a bit to Confucius. But what does it mean to be able to be a Junzi? And I think that's for somebody, for somebody who's just learning about this stuff, it's almost like the sage, I would say. It's the equivalent, right? They embodied all the moral virtues that they're they're actually, I would say a Junzi they lead by example. They mentioned it a little bit earlier tonight. That's the reason why I wanted to go back over it. And they also cultivate the character of the individuals around them. So, that relates directly back to, anybody remember the number off the top of their heads? It'll take me a second.
So
but I don't know.
What's the formal definition of that? It's a cultivated person, is it, or a?
Well, it's something like we were saying. It's almost a sage, I would say. It's somebody that embodies the moral virtue, and somebody that is not only that, is they lead by their actions, as opposed, they're not just their words. And so, go ahead.
Sorry, I saw one translation that said it's gentleman.
Yeah, that's also another translation for it.
Which you could, again, you could interpret it in a number of ways, right? Was it Oscar Wilde who said, intellectuals? No, intelligence is to intellectual as gentleman is to gents, something like that. Yeah. So gentleman in the aristocratic sense, or in the polite, congenial, more.
I think it's actually a completely different sense. I think it's almost in the sense that, gentleman, meaning somebody as like a sage. That's the way I see them. I don't see them actually as being a good translator. Although Quan's better suited to answer this than I.
Well, I think that gentleman is the perfect translation for Junzi because the two words had the same history. Okay. Let's not forget that in the English-speaking world, the gentleman was first a word that used to denote that someone was born into the hereditary nobility. Okay, during the time of Queen Elizabeth I, or during the time of King Charles I, and even till the 19th century, the word gentleman is very clear. Okay, it's contrasted to villain or to commoner. Okay, so a gentleman is someone born in the nobility. So in ancient China, Junzi, word for word, Jun means lord and Zi means son, the son of a lord. So Junzi at the origin was the word for someone born into the hereditary nobility. But from Confucius, and Confucius was a nobleman, let's not forget that, even if he was at the lower uh, rank of nobility, but he was a nobleman. He was born in 551 BC and he died in 479 BC. And from him, Junzi means also the person who make an effort to improve his character, okay, who make an effort to go into the classical education in the six liberal arts and to advance in the epistemological journey, meaning to make his mind and his soul better. So in China, for a very long time, and still like in England in the 16th century, 17th century to the 19th century, Junzi had the double meaning, okay, the dual meaning. The person born into the nobility and the person having made an effort to advance in the epistemological journey in terms of morality, in terms of learning to be a better human being. So, and I would say that there is a small nuance because I would like to remind the epistemological map as proposed by Confucius at paragraph 2.4, okay? He would use symbolic ages. The first step is 15 years old, the second step is 30, the third step is 40 years old, the fifth step is 50 years old, the fifth step is 60 years old, and the sixth and final step is 70 years old. The Junzi correspond to the fifth step, okay, with the symbolic ages of 60, okay, corresponding to the quality of a ran, of true humanity. I know that I introduced very technical distinction here, but since we are talking of that, better to study it as precisely as possible. And for the sage, which is the last stage, okay, the symbolic age of 70, there is another word for that, which is not Junzi, and that word is Shengran. And there is a difference between the Junzi, meaning the gentleman capable to contribute to his society, and the next step, which is the final step in the epistemological journey, according to the Confucianist map, you have the Shengran, and the translation for Shengran is sage, or philosopher king, if I use a Platonic lexicon.
Thank you. Could you just give me the description for 60 again? So I'm going to be 60 in a few months' time.
Yeah, the symbolic age of 60 is for Ran, the true humanity, the Junzi, the gentleman.
So I've got about 5 months to make it. Okay,
yeah.
I'll look.
Now you have 5 more months to make smart comments. After that, you're done. That's the problem. So, yeah,
no. It's not worth living.
So I was about to say, you might want to really consider your practices.
But at 60 is perfect. At 60, the Ran or the Junzi is the perfect moment to be in society. It's when you will be Shengran, at 70 years old, symbolically speaking, that you will really disappear. Okay, that's the sage.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that these are important concepts to understand as we go through, and even the idea of Li, is important as well for anybody that's new to Confucius. And so it's Ren is essentially benevolence. Li is a ritual. And so, is that correct? Am I getting that right?
Yes, and there's Li. You can only speak of Li from the upper trigram, okay? Because I remind again, the lower trigram, 1, 2, 3, is symbolically 15, 30, and 40 years old. The upper trigram, 4, 5, 6, symbolically 50, 60, and 70 years old, okay? And once again, for those who want to identify the exact paragraph, is paragraph 2.4 of the Analects. So Li rituals exists only from the upper trigram, okay, meaning that you understand you have the epistemological inner development to truly be Li, because it corresponds to something true in you. For the lower trigram, the Li is only an imitation, okay? So it corresponds to the Platonic understanding. Doxa is imitation, episteme is because you truly understand.
So there's an element, and actually what you see throughout this, and actually with Confucius, even his critique of his students, is the element of being self-aware. And somebody, I was actually thinking about the trigram as well, but in the sense that you're able to develop compassion and things like that, things along those lines, compassion or kindness or empathy or any of those things. That's what by practicing Ren, right, that you would actually be able to achieve these things, and you're achieving them from inside, right? The idea, and then you're able to understand one's kind of self-worth with that. And also actually DLJ was there, that this is kind of getting into a discussion we had on Saturday about honor, and that you're able to establish your own honor code when you're able to when you achieve these things.
Yes, absolutely. As in paragraph 9.26 or 9.27 or 9.28, I don't remember, it's at the end of chapter 9. It's about the fact that the true Junzi is capable to break the rules when his inner being understand that that rule is not appropriate for a given situation.
Absolutely, and that's essentially, you have this self-awareness when to do the right thing, and that's wisdom. And so that's a very important point, because knowing when to break the rules in Confucianism, because a lot of people look at it as being very dogmatic, but there are scenarios when the rules can be broken.
Absolutely.
But you can only do that if you are self-aware. And then I would equate that to honor, in the sense that you have certain beliefs to be true about the world. And if something were to, I don't know, be in contradiction with those beliefs, then the rule wouldn't really matter. It would be the principle, essentially, that you're leaning back on. Fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think that these are good concepts to go back over, and especially if we have new people. Does anybody have comments or wish to comment about anything about Confucius? If you have any questions about Confucius, please feel free to ask what we've been covering here. Or if you've been
appreciating Kevin's
contributions in the chat.
Wisdom that's going in the chat, yeah. So thank you, Kevin.
No problem. My background so it's so much quiet.
I'm just reading them now. Yeah, actually, one of the things we have, maybe this is a bit selfish, and I'm going to be throwing this out, but it does have an element of Confucianism, and there had been some research across all these philosophies, Taoism, Confucianism, even all the Hellenistic philosophies, even Christianity, Judaism, all, and the researchers found, and I see the word humanity or human being in there, and we talk about the word humanity here quite a bit, and in addition to what they found to be in the cardinal virtues, with justice, temperance, courage, wisdom, maybe two other traits that were interestingly enough found within kind of linked to content, personal contentment, and as well as they in some way or shape or form appear in these philosophies. And that was, one of them was humanity, and the other was transcendence. And the way those two were defined is very much, and I think some of the things that we talked about here, compassion, kindness, things along those lines, even love for humanity. And then for transcendence, it was different. It was gratitude, even hope, and some other aspects of it, things that are allow you to transcend whatever your current situation, your current circumstances. And Confucianism was actually listed on that on those, and I actually can see them quite clearly in Confucius. And the other thing Confucius really does talk about quite a bit that I think is has a lot to do with, as I said a little bit earlier, with the idea of arete, excellence, is that it really talks about personal responsibility and throughout the Analects, and what it means to be a good human, but also your responsibility is to play your role is critical. So, and it's a form of kind of when you're playing your role and taking it seriously, taking responsibility, you have an element of excellence that you'll be the best that you possibly could be if you're doing those things. And so that's also been kind of scientifically linked to an individual that's content. And it's interesting when we talk about Ren or Li, those are parts of that help cultivate those virtues, in addition to the cardinal virtues. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, but the reason why I think I got this earlier, we're covering a little bit earlier.
I'm wondering how this applies to the robber. There was aforementioned thieves and robbers, right? So
where he wasn't a very good leader. That guy essentially, because he mentioned the previous one. If he had been a good leader, the people wouldn't need to steal. But it's probably profound in the sense, though, if you are practicing, if you are a good leader, I mean, you can always be a victim of circumstance. Don't get me wrong. But if you're practicing virtue, good, please, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, just to finish the thought. Yeah, so I was thinking on those lines. Are you saying that Confucianism can help you be the best robber that you ever want to be?
I do think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
In other words, this only applies to people who are in the system. It's not applying to people who have fallen out of the system, right?
No, because you have a role as a son. You have a role as you're the son of someone, I mean, that's the 5 roles that we went over with father, son, husband, wife, elder brother, kind of
Right.
elder brother and brother. But,
So on
but
that
what he
basis,
is doing is
you
so
can
setting
have-
that up.
Yeah, so you can have honor amongst thieves because you're going to honor your father, who's also a thief, and you're. Can we go
You
that far?
could, I guess, but I don't think that would also be in line with any other of the virtues that we talked about, and it's certainly not in line with Ren or benevolence.
No, that's
It's
true.
certainly not, and it's not in line with Li, which is ritual. So the rituals usually you practice are being done in order to honor the individual, and done for a reason, and it's not certainly not on the road to being a Jinza. So I think in that being in conflict with those 3, I guess it would be a little bit of an issue. So it's interesting though, but I'm glad you brought that up because you see the role ethics aspect of things and where the virtue comes together.
Yeah. Anyway, all idealistic philosophy, okay, and Confucianism is an idealistic philosophy because it has a metaphysical thesis. Okay, let's never forget that. Okay, all the philosophy of the words can be divided by the philosophy having a metaphysical thesis, meaning that there are some timeless form that we cannot see by the senses, and what I would call the empirical philosophy. Okay, like I don't know. John Locke, for example, that's an empirical philosophy. So, in a metaphysical philosophy, it is always easy for the plutocracy to use it as a banner for their own virtue signaling. Okay, and in that sense, you cannot prevent it, but how can you prevent a plutocrat that is bright enough to understand the words of the philosophy to use it as a decoration for himself?
Yeah.
One of the questions that I had up until this chapter, actually chapter 11, is that the formal practices that weren't readily apparent to me, and I'm sure they probably were spoken about before then, but I could clearly see in chapter 11, and I don't know if you recall this, Quan, I think it was 13, 14, and 15. I'd have to go back and look. Might have been a little later, but they very much, almost directly correlated with the 3 disciplines and Stoicism, which actually is a very practical approach to becoming virtuous. So, one of the things that I always forget the student that was working for the wealthy families when he didn't need to. He was making them more wealthy. And I forget what he was talking about then, but that was, I think, he went through specifically what his problems were and what he should do. And what you saw there was that would be one example of the discipline of action in the sense that you're practicing justice. So, in a way, like Confucius's critique of the inequalities that were actually of the time was very much in line with the idea of justice. And that critique could be seen as how to act in the world. And so you start to see the practicality in actually in the text. I could probably find it, which ones, but that's been one of the things that has been a little bit more evident to me as well. And I still want to finish reading. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Dr. Engel's book. But I'll put it in the chat if anybody's interested because it's you know, I I think it's a pretty good book for anybody that's not going through the Analects and just wants to get an idea about uh, Confucianism.
More familiar with Marx than I am with Engels.
What's that?
I'm more familiar with Marx than I am with Engels.
Very good. It's. I think this one is a little younger, actually.
Yeah.
Just a tad. I think only by. I don't know his age actually, to be quite honest. But this is an excellent book. That I would like to. I haven't had a chance to finish it, but I know several people that have read it, and I've liked the sections that I've read, and I just need to finish it. But again, several people that I hold in very high regard have read it, so and they've had very good things to say about it. So, but is there anybody that would like to offer any kind of takeaway from this evening, or any questions at all? I would like to, I ask that hopefully that you will come back. That's kind of the point of maybe talking about Jinzu and Ren and Lee. So going back over there, these things, now these are terms that are frequently used, and having these concepts are kind of essential. So, I just see a couple of you that haven't been here before. There's only 5 of us or 7 of us here. Really, actually, 4 of us here. But in any case,
well, it's only my second time actually joining this group, although I've been in the Asian philosophy group for many times.
Yeah.
Second time for Confucius. I'm enjoying it actually. I like the format too. So reading through some nice short things, getting Jason's translate. I mean, the wisdom from our two gurus, right, is fantastic. Thank you.
It really is. Quan had a really deep conversation with another participant last week, and it was very hot. I think he would have enjoyed it.
And last week. Did I miss it?
He did. But anyway, yeah. But I think a very important, another important part of this meetup is Aman, who actually helps Jason with the translations. Does an excellent job, and has an incredible way of relating it to present day events. I'm sure you've probably seen him around once or twice.
Yeah,
maybe at the Dow. So I mean, we have people that that are pretty special. I'll just say that. And that goes for this and the Bhagavad Gita and our earlier stocks, like really early before everybody came. But in any case, with that, I'll probably let me announce what's coming up. Well, tomorrow is Wednesday, so we have improv.
Today is Wednesday. It's 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. Come on, catch up.
Well, we got another hour left. So, what time is it for you, Quan?
11 p.m. Montreal time.
Okay. Tomorrow is Comprehensivist Wednesdays. That is done in conjunction with the Greater Philadelphia Thinking Society, and that is it'll take place at 8 o'clock, and it will be with Micah Mori doing improv. So that should be an interesting evening. We seem to have quite a few reservations, RSVPs, so which is it is a popular series. With that, we also have we're studying Aristotle. Actually, Juan, you probably appreciate that. Is that as would everybody else, but Aristotle's Poetics. I was not there last week, unfortunately, and I have not listened to the video yet. Were you there, PLJ?
Last time, yes. That was good.
Yeah. Was there good? How far? What did you guys cover?
So it's kicked off. Oh gosh, test my memory. Kicked off with a poll and a discussion on which was for each of us the most valuable art form: literature, the visual arts, or what was the other? Or the other? Oh, music, I think. And lots of discussion on that. So it wasn't so much the text we went into.
Okay. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to. Are you talking about the one 2 weeks ago or last week?
I think last week. I'm
Okay.
worried. I think I missed a week because I thought I was in this one last week. So
Okay. So yeah, if you missed a week, then it may have been a little bit different because I thought we were going to dive into the text anyway. Aristotle's Poetics is only 2 hours to read. It's not terribly complicated. And it really has some timeless things in it. So you can join us on Thursday at 8 o'clock for that. Friday is I believe the Divine Feminine. I don't have any of these things in front of me, so I don't know what they're covering. And then I think on Sunday night, I believe we will be presenting. We actually have something on 5 o'clock on Sunday, the Great Plays. And I didn't see the great play that was actually listed because when I registered, it was still the old plays. And then at 8 o'clock we'll have our regular Bucky 4 meetup, comprehensivism to change the world. And I don't know who the speaker would be. So those are our upcoming meetups. Hopefully hopefully you'll join and hopefully you'll remember you joined. So just joking there. But it's good seeing. I appreciate everybody's comments. Thanks again, Kwame.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Oscar, for your question. I really think it was really helped us out some things.
Okay, see everyone next Tuesday. Ciao.
you
Take
go.
care.